Hey, another day, another recording. Thank you so much for those who are still here. This is a third installment. So I still want to give another story about living. I had mentioned earlier that it's BS when you say that you will leave when you're ready. You're never really ready. I had said earlier, I had tried leaving. I even had 2 friends send me money for paying for a new house just to ease up that moving process, and fear took over me and I went back, but I knew for sure it was the wrong thing to do. I looked at my kids and I knew this can't be my life. And as far as broken marriages go, broken relationships, there's nothing wrong with saying that your marriage, your relationship is not working. I know people who left their marriages because they just evolved and became different people. They were bored, and that's a good enough reason. So don't stay in a boring marriage. I know for some this is not good. This is not reason enough, but don't stay in a boring marriage just because you signed a legal document and swore in front of people that you'll be together till death. Because there's so much more to life than existing or tolerating just what comes your way because you're married. Anyway, I was not in that category. Mine was, there was physical abuse, and mostly it was the emotional abuse and financial abuse. So I will talk about this because I've also written about it. There is an article, I will put a link here. There's an article on Medium I titled, I want to call out a few people. The day I wrote this article, it was actually last month. I wrote it because somebody I knew could not transfer their child to a new school. She was coming out of a very abusive setup, marriage. And to go to a new school, she needed like a referral letter from the previous school. And the husband had gone to the school to stop the institution from giving her the letter. So she's running away from this abuser and she cannot even go and settle. So that triggered me. I remember I didn't sleep that night because I remembered what happened to me. It's part of a long story, but there's this one day when a friend of mine was relocating from Kenya and she had invited me for dinner. So I went, we had dinner and I came home. I probably got home around 9 o'clock because I remember the 9 o'clock news was broadcasting on TV. And our typical setup in the house, my then husband, I know where he sits. He had his seat next to the door, and he's a guy who never misses to watch the news. So I could hear the TV, but I'm knocking, and no one is opening. I call the house girl, and she's like, I've been told not to open the door. So by the time he's coming to open, he's angry, I'm angry. I try to get into the house and he pushes me out. So he pins me down on the floor. I was probably 75 kilos. I'm tall, but let's say he was about 100. So 100 kg man sat on my waistline, pinned me on the floor, sat on my waistline. I was hardly breathing. Then he pulled off my braids. I think it was 2 or 3 braids came off in the tassel by the time he pinned me down. So I was trying to let myself free. I started screaming, and I thought if I'm gonna die today, then at least people should know I tried. I tried to, scream for help. So in the tussle and in my screaming, the neighbors came, and he asked the watchman to call the police. So the watchman went and called the police, but they did not come immediately. So by the time neighbors came, there's one neighbor who was telling me to shut up. Imagine, someone is seated on top of me, hurting me, and the person is telling me to shut up. And I was like, why can't you tell this guy to get out of here and I'll stop screaming? So anyway, he gets up and I get into the house. I ran inside the house. At the time, I was just thinking, I have a small baby. I need to go and breastfeed. So I go, and the baby was asleep. I pick the baby, I sleep. At around probably midnight, I'm woken up. I open my eyes, and there's two gentlemen who I have never seen in my life in my bedroom. And first I look around like, where am I? Who are these? And they tell me, come outside, we need to talk. So I go out of the house, I follow them, and believe it or not, we walk to our car. My ex-husband gets into the driver's seat. One of the strangers gets on one side of the car. I'm sandwiched, I'm in the middle. And as we drive off the main gate, it occurs to me, this must be the cops. So I grabbed my phone, but I'm in my sleeping clothes. I think I was in those bathroom flippers that you wear in the house. So I text my sister and my mom and tell them we had a fight and we're headed to the police station. I don't know what will happen, but I'm sure I will not have my phone in the next couple of minutes. The police station was probably at most 5 minutes drive from where we lived then. So we get to the police station and I ask them, why am I here? And they tell me, you're talking too much. I'm like, if you're going to put me in there, you need to tell me why I'm here. One of them tells me, you're talking too much. We are just following orders. So I'm booked in and I'm taken to the cells. I don't know whether I can paint this picture well enough, but your typical cell in Kenya is a very dirty, it's not a room, it's a cell. It's dirty. There's a smell of ammonia in the air because the toilets are next to the cells, and I guess there isn't enough water to clean them. It's a cold night. This is probably past midnight. I find two ladies. There was like a teenager or maybe a youngish, probably 20-year-old, and there's another lady there. And we exchanged stories while we are there. And as I'm talking, it was so hard for me to tell them I am here because my husband has brought me here. So of course I didn't sleep, but I also remember I had been unwell. I needed to take some medication. This is actually part of the medication. I had seen a psychiatrist earlier and they had given me some meds. So I think I was on some antidepressants. And because I had been breastfeeding, my breasts were engorged. They were heavy with milk. So I'm just trying to paint the situation. So, of course, you can't sleep in such a situation. I think I stood. Was there anywhere to sit? I don't remember. I can't remember much. And it was the last day of my period, and I didn't have any sanitary towel. Luckily, it was the last day, so I knew somehow I could wing it. So what made sense is not to remove the pad I was wearing, because then I'd be left leaking. So I wore it for the entire night, the whole of the next day, because I left the next day in the evening at 6 p.m. So in the morning, I asked one of the cops, so why am I here? And she laughs and asks me, you don't know why you're here? I'm like, I had a fight with my husband. I was actually assaulted, and then I was brought in here. Then she's like, so it should be the other way around. He's the one who should be here. And I'm like, yes, so I want to know why I'm here. And she goes, she checks the paperwork. She comes and says, whatever is written on the OB is that you are obstructing the peace, something like that. So I ask her, so how is it that I'm the one who's here? Because I was screaming and there was something like causing disturbance, and yet someone was assaulting me. And she just commented, if that's who you're married to, you need to really think about it. Now she was talking to me like she was an older lady. So that situation, the trauma of it, there is my friend Sophie who came to look. She was a lawyer, God rest her soul. She tried to get me out, and she couldn't, because the cops were saying it's only the officer in charge of the station who can handle my case. So Sophie had actually come. Is there a bail? Is there this is my client. You're not supposed to hold my client without any solid. If she's not been taken to court, she came, she wore the lawyer hat, and they were all like, no, this case is for the OCS. We cannot touch her. So then they told me, if you're not out by 6 p.m., it means you spend another night here, and then tomorrow early in the morning, you need to be taken to court. So I was crossing my fingers that this guy comes and takes me out, because they were like, whoever brought you in, he's the one who's supposed to come and talk to the OCS, and so that they can take you out. So my sister came during the day, and another relative came during the day, but anyway, none of their efforts bore any fruit. So I was just waiting and hoping I could get out. I didn't even care. Or somehow, somewhere during the day, we were given chores. I was told to sweep the cell. I think so. So I swept the cell. Then we went out we were taken out to get some sun for I'm not sure. I don't think it was more than 15 minutes. Then we went back to the cell. So I spent the day there. But at around 6 p.m., one of the cops came and asked me, is your husband a doctor? And I asked her why. She's like, we've never seen a case like this. Even if it was a fight, if someone brings you in, at least he should have come by now. Can we call him? And I said, yes, you can call him. This is his number. We called him, and he said he will come when he comes. So he came at 6 p.m. They had whatever conversation they had with the OCS, and I was let out. So as I'm getting out, he tells me to go to his car. He had come with his sister. He tells me to get to his car. And I told him, no, thank you. I'll walk. The police station was probably 10 minutes walk to the house. So I walk, and as I'm walking, he says, don't go back to my house. So those words, I guess, were said a lot during that marriage. It's my house, get out. So I walk, I call my sister, I tell her what's happening and that I'm out. And she didn't live too far from me, so she comes, we walk together. And as we approach the house, I see all him and his 5 sisters. His sisters are probably my mother's age. Those who were there. So these are people who, there is that respect you just have for people who are older than you. So they're hurling insults, and I just looked at all of them. In that moment, I just looked at all of them, all 6 of them, him and the sisters, and they tell me how, oh, you will know who we are, you will know we are from the ghetto, we will come for, if you come for our brother, we come for you. And there was insults that I can't even mention. And I just looked at them and I was like, what kind of a family is this? Like, even if there was discord, I'm sure there is ways that people can resolve stuff. You're out screaming and shouting. These are old people. This is where we lived. We had neighbors, so there's several houses, and there's just shouting and altercations and all that. So anyway, long story short, I couldn't get into the house. They went and put my clothes in garbage bags. Then he called a cab driver to come and take me wherever I want to go. So I tried. I even called my lawyer friend. I asked her, so now what do I do? She was like, if that's how they're behaving, there's nothing you can do right now. You need to have that conversation later, not at this moment. I'm like, I'm already engorged with milk. My breasts are aching. I need to breastfeed. Could you at least come and negotiate? I get the little one. And they refused. So I went to my sister's house, and I think it took me another week. I went back there every day. The watchman had been given instructions, if he allows me to get into the compound, he will be fired. But I remember I went, I knew what time my 2 sons came from school. So I would go say hi to them when they're getting off the bus. Then as they're getting into the house, of course I can get into the house. But I think my little daughter could hear me speak. And she would cry. I would hear her cry. She would cry, and that broke my heart. And that happened every day for like a week. Eventually my mother sends, I think, her pastor to come talk to this guy, my then husband. And he comes, he almost beat up the pastor. So that was not going to work, definitely. Then now my mother came later, and we went and had like a family meeting between me, my then husband, his father, and my mother. But we went and had the meeting in his sister's house. So some sisters were there in the house. And whatever the conversation was, I feel like the only reason there was any sort of dialogue is because my mother is I used to call her diplomat. She's a peace seeker, and she tried to calm everybody down. My then ex-father-in-law said, if you need to die, you can die. I don't care. I just care what my son needs. And I understand when a family wants to stand with their person, but when you talk like that and you're expecting a marriage to stand, because you see, this was not like people were coming together so that the marriage can stand. It's not because you are separating. So when you're talking like that, how are you helping the situation? Anyway, long story short, I was unable. Now, after everything that happened, after being assaulted, after not seeing my children for the period of time I did, my kids were in school. I'd been told one of my sons was very angry, and my eldest had started wetting his bed, And now the little one, she could not even allow me to go to the bathroom. She thought I would leave her. She was hyper clingy. So that was the effect, at least from where I stood, that was the effect of that separation. So I looked at them, I looked at me not having money, any means of livelihood at the time. And I just said, okay, so my ex asked, he said, all he wants is for me to apologize. So I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what I was being sorry for. He did not apologize for assaulting me. He did not apologize for his part in whatever had happened. But for the sake of peace, I said, it's okay. I'm sorry. And he went back home. And at this point is when I got into the real, deep, dark tunnel of depression. The experience of being in the police cells, seeing this person who can do this much harm to me and the children every day, sharing a bed every day, that thing destroyed me. That experience destroyed me. And at this point, I started abusing alcohol. Let me pause there for today. But remember, as much as this story is not a good one, everyone has a choice. I did not have to let things get that far because there are always red flags. I should have gotten out way earlier than that point. But I waited till that point. I waited to the point where there was disrespect. There was assault. I mean, I didn't have to wait that long. So women, it is your responsibility. Always, it is your responsibility to walk away. Not walk away, to run. So thank you for coming this far. Like our channel to grow it, comment, share with your friends. Enjoy the scenes that we continue sharing in our travel. Ciao.